All right, let's dive into a story that's not just about history, it's about courage, strategy, and an idea that literally reshaped a subcontinent. We're talking about the unyielding spirit of self-rule, or Swarajya, and the one man who became its living embodiment. Think about it. At an age when most of us are just trying to figure out our own lives, maybe save ourselves from a bit of trouble, there was this young man who was out there challenging empires. I mean, who does that? Who was this person, standing up to the most powerful forces of his day? His name was Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. You've probably heard the name, right? For centuries, it's been a byword for valor, for doing the right thing. But his story, well, it starts way before he ever wore a crown. Okay, so let's rewind. To really get who this man was, we have to step back and see the world he was born into. We need to understand the powerful values that were poured into him from day one. So he's born in 1630, right? And his education was, well, it wasn't exactly your typical schooling. His number one teacher was his mother, Jijabai. And she wasn't just teaching him reading and writing. She was teaching him about dharma, righteousness, doing what's right, and nyaya, which is all about justice. So this wasn't about learning how to fight. It was about learning why you fight. His whole worldview was shaped by these epic stories, the Ramayana and Mahabharata, all these tales of heroes standing up for what's right. And believe me, that kind of education was absolutely crucial. Because look at the world he was in. Huge parts of India were controlled by the Mughal and Adil empires, and for a lot of people, life was just oppressive. This was the reality on the ground, and this was the world that Shivaji looked at and decided, nope, this has to change. And you can feel that determination in his own words. This land is my mother, and no one can enslave a mother. Wow. I mean, for him, this wasn't about conquering land or grabbing territory. This was personal. It was a sacred duty, like protecting your own family. And that belief, that became the absolute bedrock of everything he did. So you've got this young guy with this powerful idea. But how do you actually start a revolution? Well, it starts with one single, incredibly bold move. An act that was designed to send a shockwave, a message that the ruling empires couldn't ignore. He was 16 years old. Just 16. Let that sink in. At an age where we're basically still kids, Shivaji was out there literally making history. He goes and captures his very first fortress, Torna Fort. And this was so much more than just a military win. It was a statement, a symbol. It was him shouting to the world that this dream of Swarajya, of self-rule, it wasn't just some crazy fantasy anymore. He made it real. He showed everyone it was actually possible. Okay, so you can probably guess what happens next, right? You don't just go around challenging empires and expect them to ignore you. The big powers started to see him as a serious threat, and that set the stage for one of the most legendary showdowns of his entire life, a real test of not just his strength, but his mind.
So the Adil Sultanate sends in their top guy, this fearsome general named Afzal Khan, to crush this rebellion once and for all. Khan's plan? He invites Shivaji for peace talks, but it was a trap. The plan was to kill him. During their embrace, Khan literally tried to stab him in the back. But here's the thing. Shivaji was already playing chess while Khan was playing checkers. He saw the betrayal coming. He was wearing hidden armor and carrying a secret weapon, the Wagnak, or tiger claw. And in a split second, he used it to defend himself. Absolutely incredible.
Now we have to be clear here. This wasn't about deception on Shivaji's part. This was pure self-defense against someone who was actively trying to kill him. And the news of what happened, man, it just exploded across the country. Suddenly, Shivaji wasn't just some local rebel anymore. He was a strategic mastermind, a power to be reckoned with. So his reputation is growing, and that puts him on a collision course with the biggest player in the game, the mighty Mughal Empire, led by the Emperor Aurangzeb himself. And this is where we get another legendary chapter in his story. Aurangzeb, realizing he couldn't beat Shivaji on the battlefield, tries a different tactic: trickery. He lures Shivaji to his court in Agra and then, bam, slaps him under house arrest. You'd think that's it, game over. But you'd be wrong. Shivaji, the master strategist, comes up with this brilliant plan. He pretends to be sick, and as part of his recovery, he starts sending out these massive baskets of fruit and sweets every day to the poor. The guards see these baskets coming and going day after day. They get lazy. And then one day, who's inside the baskets instead of fruit? Shivaji and his son, They literally walk right past the guards. It's one of the most audacious, brilliant escapes in all of history. And that escape tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. This wasn't him running away. It was a strategic retreat, a chance to reset the board. He gets back home, and he's not defeated. He's fired up. He immediately launches this incredible campaign and takes back every single fort he had lost. So after all these years of struggle, of outwitting his enemies, that dream that first sparked at Torna Fort was about to become a full-blown reality. The focus was shifting. It wasn't just about winning battles anymore. Now it was time to build a kingdom. And so, in 1674, at the majestic Raighat Fort, it finally happens, his coronation. He's not just a rebel leader anymore. He is officially crowned Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, a true sovereign king. This was it, the culmination of everything he had fought for. But here's the big question. What kind of king was he going to be? And this quote, it tells you everything. I am not a representative of anyone. I am a servant of the people. Think about that. He didn't see himself as some lofty ruler looking down on his subjects. He saw himself as their servant. In the 17th century, that was a completely revolutionary way to think about power. And these weren't just empty words. He actually walked the walk. Look at the pillars of his kingdom. Unwavering respect for women, total religious freedom for everyone, a tax system that was actually fair, and protection for the farmers, the backbone of the kingdom. I mean, these weren't just policies on a piece of paper. These were groundbreaking principles. His entire rule was built on justice and welfare, not just on having a bigger army. So, when we look back, what's his real legacy? It's not just about the forts he built or the battles he won. It's about an idea, a really powerful idea that, honestly, is still incredibly relevant today. And the heart of it all is how he defined Swarajya. For him, it wasn't about satta, which is just raw political power. It was about kartavya, which means duty. The duty to protect your people, the duty to serve them, the duty to make sure every single person, no matter who they were, received justice. And his life is just full of these timeless takeaways, like courage has nothing to do with how old you are, or that protecting what's right isn't just about muscle, it's about using your mind. That self-rule, true freedom, has to start as an idea in your head before you can ever win it on a battlefield. And maybe the biggest one of all, history isn't made by people who just go along with things, it's made by those who refuse to bow down. Which brings us to this final thought. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was not a king. He was the soul of India. It suggests that he was more than just a ruler of some piece of land. He was the living, breathing embodiment of a nation's spirit of freedom. And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? What does it truly mean to build a legacy, not one based on power, but one based on duty?